With Raad. And really what I'm trying to explain in these two first sessions is a very simple idea that has many applications. So I'm trying to explain to you something very simple, which is the following. When you correlate what you see to an idealized meaning, let's suppose you say this person, he's a doctor, or he's a photojournalist, or this person is this or that. Or when you say that an Arab is this or that, or when you say a Westerner is this or that, when you do this kind of correlation between a signifier and a signified, I hope by now this is clear, meaning what points towards the meaning and the meaning. You can say blue signifies peace. When you do this kind of correlation, which is something we do all the time. All the time we always spend our day saying this is that. This means that. So when you do this correlation, and this correlation is transparent. I insist on the transparent. For example, you say, like the American official, you say, well, you know what? These fighters in Lebanon, they are savages. Or if you are Bush, you go on TV and you say, Iraq, Iran, Lebanon, it's evil. This is a transparent correlation. It's not that complicated. Yeah, you just say they are like that. And for you, it seems to be obvious and normal, and this is the truth, and there's no other reading for that. This is what you call a transparent kind of application of meaning. In the good old days, they used to say, I don't know, you have all kinds of nasty correlations. Christians are fascist, Muslims are dirty. You pick your correlation. When you do this kind of correlation, this is when you repress the political, historical dimension of something. It's very simple. If you say, like when Bush wanted to invade Iraq, that in Iraq, Saddam is Hitler and everyone is evil, you put aside, if you like the history or not, this is not what is in question, you put aside, the complexity of the Saddam regime, the history of it, the diversity of the Iraqi population. All of these things are just evacuated. And what you need to see is that in this kind of transparent application of meaning, this is what allows you to go and wage a war, kill people, and do whatever you want. I hope you're seeing that there's a strategic blindness. There's a kind of strategic blindness, obviousness, or being blinded by obviousness. Like, of course, Saddam, he's Hitler, and we're going to massacre everyone on our way. Or, as Trump says, Mexican rapists, Arabs are terrorists, etc. All of these correlations allow you to act, allow you to intervene in the most brutal, direct way. Of course, you as a power, be it the American administration, with its embranchments, meaning the contractors, the army, the weaponry, the industries, the thirst for oil and money, which is what we call a power. If you are thirsty for money and power, well, you need this kind of simplifications in order to be able to intervene as quickly and as efficiently, violently as possible. I hope this is clear. You see it on TV day and night. It's not that complicated. And it's not only happening, as we say, in the West. Here, too, when you want to execute someone, you say that, he's evil, or he's retarded, or he's whatever, and you're able then to attack bluntly. This happened recently between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And they start, throwing devilish statements on each other in order to be able to attack. Okay, so what Raad is saying is this. When you do this correlation, which is what I will call the idealistic or the ideal correlation, because you have something and you refer it immediately to its idea or meaning, immediately, you are blinded when it comes to the complexity of the relation between this and its meaning and to the strategies and intention behind correlating this to its meaning. Okay. Yes, last time we've seen in detail one example, which is the Westerner hostage crisis. And we've seen how you have two kind of packages that you have seen. The American administration, to deal with that, just puts aside all the implications that they have in the region, meaning they are helping Israel, being violent, bombarding people. All of these things are put aside. And this problem is reduced to the correlation, human mistake, and human structure of the administration. I hope you remember that. What's the problem with the Western hostage crisis? It's not that people are being kidnapped in Lebanon. It is that the president didn't know why they are selling weapons to Iran and why they're giving part of the money to the Contras. This is the problem, not that actually the Contras are killing people in Latin America, and here people are being killed, and hence they need to kidnap other people in order to make themselves heard or to counterattack. So these things are put aside, and the whole issue becomes, you have to call first the White House before you transfer the money, and it becomes this kind of logistical administrative problem. And all of this fuss about the logistics and the administration allows you to put aside the main question, which is, why are they kidnapping people in Lebanon? Meaning, why are they kidnapping Westerners in Lebanon? This is, if you want, the way the administration itself is able to evacuate the problems that it doesn't want to face, because if it faces this problem, it will have many problems. Why do you need to implement Israel here? Why do you send billions of dollars in support to Israel? And why do you send your ships to bombard the Lebanese mountain or Beirut, etc.? So you will have to raise this kind of question. And of course, they don't want to raise this kind of question. Okay, so this is out of question. And this is what Raad calls, it's a symptom. When you don't find anything being said about why did they kidnap people in Lebanon, it's symptomatic. It's like when you cough and you are sick. Your sickness is expressed in this symptom. So this is symptomatic of a will to dominate, of a will to be the only actor in the region, or at least to be the main player in the region. So it's a symptom that needs to be addressed. Now, the other pack that you have seen is the relation of the Westerners themselves when they were kidnapped in relation to their kidnappers. You said that here too, the way the kidnapped, the way the abducted speak about their kidnapping. It's very simple. You begin the book with, Beirut is a wonderful city with beautiful trees and the breeze and the view on the sea. Knowing that, you are writing a memoir of abduction, of being kidnapped by a political party in view of political claims. So if you want, Raad would have said, at least you can begin your book like we are in 1985 and the Americans were bombarding Lebanon in 1980, if I remember well, 3 or 4. And their embassy was destroyed in around also 83, 84. So this kind of facts would be a bit more relevant for your memoir of why they kidnapped you than, it was a beautiful day and all of a sudden people dressed in black appeared in the street and the day wasn't beautiful anymore. So I hope you're saying what he's saying. Now, what he's saying is that there's also, this is symptomatic, this way of picturing your kidnapping as a kind of spiritual quest. It was beautiful, I got kidnapped, I went to hell, in hell I met my limits and the devil and angels, and then I went back from hell to life, etc., etc. All of this kind of scenarization of the kidnapping allows you to put aside the fact that, you're part of a nation which is for many an enemy nation, which is part of a war, etc., etc. And this allows you to have a clean consciousness and to move on, So last time you've seen many of these ways for you to escape. You can stereotype the Arabs. This way you don't address who they really are. You say, anyway, who kidnapped us? The Arabs. What is an Arab? It's a scurfy beard, hawk nose, and a mentality of a 13-year-old boy, etc., etc. This is an Arab, and this is what kidnapped me. And of course, he's wrong, I'm right, and you can move on. Okay, so I hope you see how you're able to keep yourself blinded when it comes to what is really going on by correlating yourself to these idealities. You say, me, I have nothing to do here. You know, I'm just a journalist, I'm just a professor, and they are Arabs and stuff like that. Okay. So in the movie you saw last time, in the video, I hope you heard all the hints to what the thesis was about. You remember Bashar speaking, the sexual allusions, the fact that they begin with the weather. You see, so Walid Raad makes his videos like that. He makes a research about all the cliches and all the rumors and all the imaginary, spontaneous, and phantasmagorical projections on these affairs. You can imagine yourself being an American, right-wing American in the States, and you see this on TV. For you, of course, these Arabs are raping these men. In your imagination, if you read the accounts and if you read the reactions to a kidnapping of Westerners in these regions, you have this kind of projections, imaginations, fantasies that people here are more or less savages, and they're going to do all kinds of awful stuff to the kidnapped. Okay? So Walid, he's here. That's what I want you to feel. He's not doing the real history of Lebanon where of course, Bashar, he wasn't kidnapped. It's what you call an intercessor. He's like a created persona, Bashar, that allows Walid to make a whole kind of delirium on the kidnapping. Bashar was not in the prison. He invented him. And what's even more interesting is that usually he used to give these talks in the States. So in front of American audience that don't know much about Lebanon.
It wasn't kidnapped, only Americans.
Yeah, only Americans were kidnapped. So this is a created persona, like as you would see, Walid Raad creates many personas, and he starts telling stories via them. Now, why does he create this character? He creates this character because this allows him to make a kind of synthetic image where he's able to bring together all the cliches, projections, stereotypes that are vehicled by the Western medias and counter them with his video. Okay. So today we're going to move into the colonization. Imperialism relates to the US, and the colonies relate to the French and European nations, but we are concerned with the French colonies because we are a French colony. As you know, many of you speak French and did the bac français and stuff like that, including me. And hence, we are products of the French colonization. And Walid is going also to attack and criticize people who produce documents or movies or sentences or whatever you want, all of these things, that are going to be expressions of this colonial past. Now, I've put here two movies, I hope you watch them, which is Hors la Vie and Schlorndorff, The Circle of Deceit. Please watch them, because I'm going to talk about them. And in Hors la Vie, there's a movie by Maroun Baghdadi. So Maroun Baghdadi, he's Lebanese, but he's a Franco-Lebanese, and he did Hors la Vie, which is one of his most famous movies because he went to Cannes and stuff like that. And Hors la Vie that made it to Cannes and even won the prize, the grand jury prize, if I'm not mistaken, before Nadine Lebaki. So Hors la Vie is a movie which was produced by the French. It was produced by French TV and stuff like that. And in Hors la Vie, the movie begins really with a sequence where you see a photojournalist. The photojournalist is called Perrault in the movie. And you see him really like taking pictures of the war. You see him taking pictures of the war. And at one point, you see him putting down his camera and helping the people there, the wounded people. So he's not an eager, nasty photojournalist. And then he goes to a place and the militiamen ask him to take photos of a hanged dead body And then he refuses. And when he refuses, they take his film out and it burns. And Walid Raad says, after the scene of the taking of the burning the pellicule, the film, he's kidnapped and blindfolded. He's kidnapped and blindfolded, and then you see the movie, most of it, like it's black, and you just see, segments of what he's seeing sometimes. So I hope you understand, I hope you will watch the movie, I hope you understand that this sequence for Walid Raad is a symptom. It's something that you need to interpret. So why a French production needs to present a French journalist as someone who helps people, and then who's someone who, when he loses his camera and his film, becomes himself blinded. This is what is being vehicled in the interpretation of Walid Raad. He says, this movie opens on a statement, which is, one, French photojournalists are very, very humane. Two, French photojournalist cameras are like their eyes, like their flesh and blood eyes. If you take their camera away, it's as if you're taking their eyes away, meaning you are blinding them. So, and why this is needed as a statement? Because it's very important for a French production to say, this is still in the war in Beirut, and Beirut was highly, highly televised, especially in France, for very good reasons. Beirut was the Beirut war was extremely covered by French TV, because Beirut is the Paris du Levant. Beirut was the base of the French power in Lebanon. Actually, until today, I forgot my numbers, but you have astronomical now. You have banks, big banks in Lebanon are still owned by the French companies. So the French companies have still a lot of interests here. And actually, they have built Beirut itself. Beirut didn't exist. It was like nothing. Seriously. It wasn't like a major city in the Ottoman Empire. Beirut was nothing. It was like a small thing, and all what you see were like beach and vegetation. So the French decided to create here a center, and as you know, you have Place l'Étoile, Clemenceau, Verdun. Now we have Verdun, which is a bit outside, but really it's the city center, the downtown. At one point, it was an old city, and they renovated it with hotels and boulevard and stuff like that, in order to bring in the mandate, in order to be able to serve the mandate and the businessmen which come from Europe, etc. And hence, it was really like a very important city for the French power. So, of course, for the French, it's a very important statement to say that the French journalists here, they make indexical images. Now, what is an indexical image? It's like the index. It means that you simply show what is there. So I repeat, when you blind, when the journalist goes blind, it's very important because this means that the photos that they're taking are the photos of the truth. Or they are truthful photos. And what do these photos take? They take violence, barbarity, blood, rape, massacres. And if you accolade war to the photos of war and you say this war is simply brutal, nonsensical, etc., barbarian, you have your truth. And actually, on the French TV, you used to hear that all the time. Like, this war in Lebanon is absolutely, barbarian, doesn't make sense, it's absolutely savage, etc., etc. And this is, if you want, the importance of this accolation, of this indexical image. Now, critique of Walid Raad. So Walid Raad, he goes into the books of Auque, which is the real character on which the movie is based. So you have Perrault is the guy who is kidnapped in the movie. Auque is the real guy who was kidnapped, meaning the guy who was really kidnapped in real life. And Auque says, tous ceux avec qui je rigolais le soir quand on rentrait de reportage pendant la guerre du Chouf, des camps palestiniens ou du siège de Tripoli, au restaurant du Cavalier, ont décompressé autour d'un mezzé arrosé d'un xara. Now, this is the real guy speaking. The fictional guy, he's there, he puts his camera, he runs, he saves people from, the stuff. Now the real guy, he says, you know what, after having a tour between Massacre 1, which is the Shuf, Massacre 2, which is related to the camps, etc., etc., we go back to Le Cavalier and we have a nice meze and ksara, meaning it's really fun. Actually, what Walid Raad says is that what is the real motivation behind the photojournalist here? The real motivation behind the photojournalist here is that it has all kind of Orientalist thrills. Now, what are the Orientalist thrills? Well, you have, of course, food, sex, and violence. These are the Orientalist thrills, meaning here you can do almost whatever you want. It's not anymore the policed state of France. Here it's a bit like chaos where you can, it's very fun because there aren't any more laws. And how do you live that? You live that in this very violent and thrilling tension, which is you go into areas where people are killing each other, and at night you go into places where they are having like huge, incredible parties. Okay? I hope you'll watch the other movie, which is here, which is Schlondorf's movie. I think it's very good, contrary to what many people say. I think it's a very harsh critique of what Walid is talking about, where you see here a German photojournalist, and he really shows you that. He really shows you how this photojournalist, he's there seeing massacres, and at night, he's drinking, having sex, going around, and at the end of the movie, he even kills someone because, he's part of it, so why not start killing also some people? And at the end of the movie, which is interesting in the Schlondorf movie, is that the guy remains in Beirut, and at one point, after a year or two, he goes back to Germany with a packet, like a bundle of original photos of the massacre of the Damour. And we wonder if he wasn't like killing and taking pictures. I think this is the idea of the movie, because at one point he says in the movie, like, okay, I'm a photojournalist here, supposed to be neutral, but why not take part? And he's sympathizing with Palestinians, and hence why not go and kill some Christians in the Damour? After all, the Christians killed a lot of Palestinians, be it in Tel Zatar, Karantina, or Sabra and Sheikh. So why not also me, take part of it? And you see him really like going into this delirium of this place. I think Schlondorf movie needs to be watched in contrast with the Hors la Vie movie. Hors la Vie movie is a bit idealized when it comes to the French photojournalist, that he's here just for humane things. So I hope now you're seeing the first couple. First couple, you say, me, who am I? In the ideological, meaning in this fiction that you built to yourself. You say, who am I? Well, I am just a photojournalist. What am I doing here? I'm here to report on the war because I want to bring the truth to the French people. And this is your ideality. I hope this is clear. You say, me, I connect to the truth, photojournalistic truth, and this is really what I'm doing here. I'm trying to bring the photojournalistic truth to who? To the French people, to the world. And in this kind of fiction, I insist on this word, this is fiction itself. This is fiction itself, as we will see next time. So in this fiction that you build to yourself, what do you put aside? You put aside all your real existential and compulsive desires. And what is his real existential compulsive desire? Is to have fun here, to have a thrill, to be shooted at, to shoot a little bit, and the like.
He's not putting them aside.
Huh?
He's not putting them aside. You said he's shooting them.
Yeah, but this is why I need you to see now the documents. Meaning, in the movie of Baghdadi, you don't see him drinking, having fun. You see him like a good guy. The French guy in the movie of Baghdadi. You have two movies.
Yes. I'm talking about the German.
Yeah, you have two. You have a German and a French and a Lebanese, Franco-Lebanese movie. So the German movie is very critical. He shows you the guy killing, drinking, and having his fun in Beirut. The other movie doesn't show you that. The other movie, he only shows you the good guy, the good journalist, the poor guy who is kidnapped, and he doesn't understand why he's kidnapped, and he goes through this ordeal. And at the end, he's saved, and you really feel relieved when he's saved at the end of the movie, because fictions do work. So you are really happy for him to escape the evil. I think it's between Amal and Hezbollah, the kidnappers of the French guy, and you're happy for him. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that this is a symptom. So first symptoms, you correlate yourself to this ideality via your profession. Now, the second one is that at one point of the movie, the character says, or the real character, and the real character says in his book, "J'ai beau chercher, j'arrive toujours à la même conclusion, je n'ai rien à me reprocher." I'm really looking in my consciousness, in my memories, why did they kidnap me? I'm not finding any reason why they should kidnap me. I hope you see here this kind of blindness and this kind of ideal circle. And in the movie, Perrault says, "Pourquoi je suis là? Pourquoi tout ça? Why am I here? And why all of that?" This is what he says to his kidnapper, Ahmad. And Ahmad replies, "Si tu es ici, c'est que tu as fait quelque chose de mal. If you are here, it is because you did something bad." Okay? Now, interpretation of Walid Raad. I hope now he takes these two sentences. For him, these two sentences are symptoms or documents, and they need to be now interpreted and worked on. Interpretation of Walid Raad. Walid Raad says, "I want to suggest that while Perrault's là, meaning here, in his question clearly referred to the photojournalist's place in captivity, Ahmad's ici, meaning, down here, in his answer corresponds to the Frenchman's presence in another locale, i.e. Lebanon." Okay, now, I hope now you see how he functions, this right. So, the French guy says, "Why am I here?" Meaning, why did you kidnap me? And the kidnapper hears that if you are here, meaning not here in the kidnapping place, meaning in Lebanon, well, it means that you did something bad. It means that you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. Okay. So, now, why for Walid this is symptomatic? Because as you know, as I told you last time, for this war, meaning for the Lebanese war to be governed by mainly the American and the French TVs, mainly, a bit the British, but not too much, it's very, very signifying. It means that the American and the French have interest in that, so they need to modulate or affect their public opinion in relation to that. Why? Because they have interest in that. And if they have interest in that, because their past is a colonial and imperial past, this is why when you send photojournalists here, even if for them they are just doing their jobs and they're just nice people, etc., it remains that they have an existential dimension that needs to be taken into consideration, which is that they are French photojournalists here. And this is why actually he's kidnapped. He's kidnapped not because he's a nice guy or not a very nice guy. He's kidnapped because he has an existential dimension. I hope it's clear what he's saying. What he's saying applies also on maybe many of you and me and stuff like that. You can go now and try your luck with the French embassy and explain to them that you are really a nice guy and you believe in the human values, human rights, etc., and hence they should give you a passport or an immigration visa. You will see that they will not accept your request. So what I'm trying to tell you is that this ideality in which we all live more or less is itself pure fiction, and it is countered, it's really like it hits on, it is like facing a very harsh reality, which is that the real, in its administrative, military, economical, all these things, they don't care about your nice ideality. Be it you going to immigrate, or be it a French journalist here, and that ends up being kidnapped. I hope now you're getting what he's saying. Okay. So this is another couple. It's another couple where you see that your your real dimension is what is at stake in these operations and not the way you perceive yourself. Now, another one of these couples is what we call the relation between pleasure and deception. Because if you watch Schlondorf or Hors la Vie, in Schlondorf there is a French guy in the movie, in the German movie, Schlondorf. And this French guy, he's very weird, you know. He's very weird because at one point he says how beautiful Lebanon is and incredible and it's a paradise and how everything is, how the wine, the food, the sweet is so good. And then after 2 lines he tells you, well, you know what, this is a place which is very worrisome, filled with savages and filled with violent people. So you wonder how this dichotomy is established, okay? So I hope this is clear. Yeah.
Lebanese people can say the same thing.
Yes.
Everyone.
Yes, everyone says the same thing. And so why you have this kind of imbalance? Why you have this kind of imbalance, even the Lebanese and their self-perception? Because here you need to see it's a structure. Why in Lebanon, and this is what I think is being underlined by Walid Raad, why in Lebanon you have this kind of, you know, we are savages but also very civilized. It's as if you're not just a savage, but you're not just civilized. You flip between the two. You jump. You know, one day you're a savage, one day you're civilized. And it's very true. I hope you read a bit of Walid Saad, the references. The militiamen are, you know, they really like committing massacres. Then he goes home and he writes his memoir and he publishes it in a publication house and he tells you how he's really worried about, you know, literature, writing and stuff like that. It flips. So why does it flip? You have many readings for why it flips. The sectarian reading is that we live in a sectarian structure. What does it mean? It means that if you take the constitution of Lebanon itself, Lebanon is a very weird constitution because when they liberated themselves from the French, as they say, what happened is that you have a constitution which is almost modeled on the French constitution, with all like civil rights, human rights, everything you want. And then you have the Mithaq al-Watani, which is a kind of shadow document that Riyad Salah sent to Khouri, and that says that actually the personal and political considerations must be thought of on a confessional side. Okay? And you know this. You know that Lebanon has a constitution which is purely civic, like a modern state. But when it comes to marriage, death, and political positions, it's not civic at all, it's confessional. This is what you call the sectarian state. The sectarian state is that if you want to become a professor, not in AUB or USG because these are missions from the colonial and imperial powers, but in a Lebanese university. If you want to become a professor in a Lebanese university, you have to be Sunni or Shia or stuff like that. If you want to be a doctor in a public hospital, you have to be, depending on your confession. If you want to be a minister or a deputy, it's the same. So you have this divide already in the political structure, which is actually itself the expression of the colonial project. Now, what was the colonial project? I need to explain these things if they're not very, you're not very aware of them. You know, like Gouraud, which is the creator of Lebanon. You should thank him, by the way. He's the real father of Lebanon, real. So, General Gouraud said that actually, you see, we need to create a door. This is in his letters, so I'm not inventing it. Nor Trabulsi. So if you read Trabulsi's Modern History of Lebanon, Gouraud says, okay, we need to create a door for the Middle East, meaning to be able to enter Syria and Iran and Iraq and Palestine and, to be able to position ourselves here. And this door needs to be a flip door, which means it shouldn't be stable. It should be like a flipping door, like this door. So if you push it like that, it turns. If you push it like that, it turns. So how do you create this kind of metastable situation? Gouraud said, it needs to be stable enough, but metastable, meaning not completely unviable, but not completely viable. So he said, we put the beka in. Because Gouraud, this is after the famine of 1917. In 1917 you had a famine after First World War, and during the First World War, around the First World War, I think 1917, if I'm not mistaken, there was an embargo against the Ottoman Empire, and given that our grandfather Fakhreddin decided to plant the whole mountains with silk, to produce silk and all, because he made a deal with Tuscany, and this way they can sell the silk to Tuscany and to Lyon. So they didn't have food anymore, these peasants in Lebanon, and when the embargo came from the Turks on Lebanon, they starved. They couldn't eat the silk. So the story goes like that. The story goes like, you have this situation where you have the notion of starvation. It's very present still in the collective awareness. And hence, Gouraud said, you are going to annex the beka. You annex the beka, this way there can be food. It was a problem of food. But in the same time, if you just annex the beka and you keep only Kisirwen and the mountain, the majority would be Christian. And if the majority is Christian, you'll have a Christian state practically, and it would be stable for Gouraud. So he said, we're going to add Tripoli, Saida, and Beirut, which will give this kind of excess of, or kind of input of Muslims. And this is how you get this kind of almost 50-50 Christian Muslims, and you put them under one state and becomes unstable. And of course, Gouraud, he backed up the big Christian families, because Sunnis and the mountains, the Druze Sunnis were used to be allied with the Ottoman Empire. So now you see how these things get set. Now, of course, when Gouraud said that, he made deals with the big Christian families, which became very rich and dominant, which was actually one of the causes of the war. Because one of the causes of the war, around 75, is that many Muslim families, or even the population, and especially also the Shia population in the south, they were really poor and excluded. And you started to have upheavals in the south and in Beirut to have more social right and a better distribution of wealth. Shamoun back then, which was one of the representatives of these Christian leader, big families kind of guy, he went into a clash with another old leader, which is Jumblat, and this is how it began. So I hope you're trying to understand that when you look at this structure, with Gouraud's now project to implement in Lebanon a kind of base for the French colony, this is when you start having these dichotomies, savage, barbarian. Why you start having these dichotomies? Because you as a colonizer, you would like to have a perfect restaurants, hotels, and services, and an airport, and telephones, and stuff like that, because you are building your base here. So when you come here as a French, or as a, as someone coming here from the main power, you find the things here very, very nice, because you form the people here to be good in their services. Now, but of course there's another reality, which is that this little bomb that was created, which is always oscillating, makes it such that these people are going to have clashes and violent relations to each other and to their colonizer, and this is why you have these jumps. So when you like it, you find it very pleasurable and wonderful, and when you have to face reality, which is actually we created a little Frankenstein, which is almost on the verge of exploding in our face and in the face of the other, you shift into the savage. Okay, so all of this to tell you that something as simple as, in Lebanon there's very good wine and very good restaurants. For Walid Raad, this is a symptom. It's a symptom of what? It's a symptom of the political oppression of the colonial powers. Did you get how he does it? So I had to tell you all the story for that. Okay, so you see now, having wine and, French food in most of the restaurants here, especially in the 50s and 60s, it's not like today. Today is established, we live all in what you call the globalized world. It's not even like, but in the 50s, 40s, it was something, You come from Paris here and you find little Paris here. It's very nice. Really, imagine it for you. I don't know, if you have a colonial vein in you, like let's colonize, I don't know, China or Tibet and build a little Beirut there, I don't know. So you go there and you find hummus, and Tibetans are doing hummus better than you. You find it great, no? I don't know. So anyway, so I'm just giving you this for you to understand why this character in the movie of Schlondorf finds it great, and at the same time he finds it very a source of a lot of anxiety in the same time. So these two affects are actually built historically, politically, and this is how you get these affects here. So to continue on that, I hope now you understood this kind of subjectivity of the colonial character. So if you want the colonial character, main trace is that he identifies himself to a kind of professional which is just doing his job, while actually he's having fun. And this is related in the same time to him not seeing that existentially, meaning as a being, him being here, it's very problematic and part of a much bigger agenda than his little interest in truth and stuff like that. And third, so this is why you need to be very careful about what it means to be here. And third, the pleasures and pains and anxieties that he lives are themselves a consequence of this structure that France was trying to build in here. You know, as one of the characters says, Ali says in the movie, at one point he tells his kidnap, meaning Perrault, he tells him, mais tu sais, on peut aller en France en restant ici, en restant au Liban. Rien que les noms des rues, rue Jeanne d'Arc, rue Verdun, rue Justinien, rue Clémenceau, avenue Charles de Gaulle. Okay? So, Ali tells Perrault, you know what, you can, because Ali was asking Perrault, what should he do to get a visa to go to France, and if he can help him with the visa. So it's quite a funny situation, you know. You kidnap a guy and you ask him, how can I immigrate to your place, and can you help me with that? Can you tell something to the ambassador? So, and then he tells him, the Perrault tells him, no, you know, it's too complicated. So he tells him, Ali replies, so you know what, I don't need to go to France because I can stay here in Lebanon and I can go there just by looking at the names of the street, because you have Rue Jeanne d'Arc, Verdun, Justinien, and Clémenceau and Charles de Gaulle. Okay? You have this kind of situation. Now this is for the, if you want, the personal individuality. You as a French or as, I don't know, as a Westerner, if you want to call it like that, how do you feel in this situation, and why do you have all of these attitudes, sentences, feelings, etc.? Now, when it comes to the bigger picture, which means how will the colonial discourse justify itself? And here you have something else. You have what you call a new kind of couple, which is violence and absurdity. If you watch the French televisions, what is quite remarkable is that in the French TVs covering Lebanon, most of the time they just tell you that Christians are killing Muslims and Muslims are killing Christians in the most violent, savage way, as if just like that. So as if they're just doing these killings out of hatred. This is the first point. And the second point, when Muslims start killing Muslims, for them it becomes absolutely surreal. So at one point in the movie, Perrault says that he can understand that Muslim kills Christian or vice versa. But when the Palestinians starts to kill Amal, and Amal start to kill Palestinians, meaning for him it becomes absolutely absurd. Why the Shia will kill Palestinians and Palestinians kill the Shia? For him this is absolutely incomprehensible. And actually it points towards the real fact that these people here are a bit crazy. And if they are crazy, says Walid Raad, if they are crazy, well, colonialism must be justified. Did you get the song now? Okay? On TV, I show you that, listen, these people killed each other in all directions, and there's absolutely no rationality behind that, no politics, nor social claims, nor anything, just they are filled with hate, and all they want is to kill each other, and not even that, kill even each other among each other, meaning in the same group. Now, symptom. Why for a French journalist, it's simply impossible that a Shia kills a Palestinian, because Walid Raad comments, it's because in the collective Western, in this case French consciousness, Shias and the Palestinians are the two figures of terrorism in the 80s. I don't know if you know that, but in the 80s, those who used to kidnap airplanes used to be the Amal people and the Palestinians. And this is why in this kind of, I don't know what to call it, international consciousness, the Shia and the Palestinians used to be friends and must be friends because they're against the West and they are with the obscure forces of the East, of the Orient, and this is why they shouldn't kill each other. Now, this reading for Walid Raad actually is what shows you that there is a kind of confusion between these two figures, because for them, they can't be in a political discord. Well, actually, you had a huge political discord for anyone who reads a little bit of history between the Palestinians of Yasser Arafat and Hafiz al-Assad and the proxies here, Amal, which were supported by Assad. And hence, you know that very well there was a huge friction between these groups. And actually, they don't belong to the same line of thought or to the same project or anything, and they never liked each other and stuff like that, and so you had huge frictions personally between Assad and Arafat, etc., which led at one point Amal to try to liquidate the Palestinians. Okay, so you have a rationality behind that. If you want to look for a rationality, you can, but the issue is not here. The issue is that why a French television and a French photojournalist doesn't want to dive into that. It's because this will allow a justification of the colonial project. Okay? I hope now you got how it works. So the last point on that, and I'll show you some art. The last point of that is another sentence by Perrault in the Hors la Vie movie, which is that him as a Frenchman, he shouldn't reproach himself anything because only the US are the real Satan. Only the US are the real Satans, meaning, in the 80s, there was a slogan, it's disappearing now, أمريكا الشر الأكبر الأكبر المطلق المطلق. Okay, so you have this sentence all over the place, like America is the devil itself. You see, this is part of the same but anyway, so the Frenchman says that for him it's really like absurd that he is being kidnapped. He understands that Kenan or Veer or these Americans are kidnapped because they're Americans, and America is the shar al-mutlaq, the absolute evil, while he, a Frenchman, would be kidnapped. And here again, Walid Raad explains that this kind of justification allows the French colonial consciousness to be withdrawn from the picture. Okay? Meaning this is how you justify your presence here as if you are just a humanitarian, where actually if there is a mess here, in big part it's because of the colonial French project, and if the Shia were excluded, it is in big part because of the French colonial project, and hence you can't just wash your hands like that by saying the fault now is on the states, because the states are supporting Israel and Israel is against the in quotes, the Shia, and etc. Okay? So I hope now you got this kind of structure. Okay, so I'll show you a work that addresses that. And you have it in the readings. I hope you read it. It's the Al-Hadas Archive Project, or the Al-Hadas Project. Now, what you need to understand is Walid Raad, he is a bit weird because, usually he works alone, but he says that he works with, in groups. So he invents groups. This is his thing. At least it was his thing for a long time. So he invented a group, like Al-Hadas group, like there are many photographers working together and they have funds and there are sponsors and they send their picture here and there. And actually, he's alone taking pictures, okay? We will see the reason soon. soon. But so the second one is the Atlas group. The Atlas group, where he really have all kinds of characters around him: Dr. Fakhouri, Ilyas Serkis, Trabulsi, this, that. You know, you feel that there's a lot of people in this artistic organization. Well, actually, he invents them all, and he sends letters to himself, and he sends, you know, he also does that. He writes letters and he sends them to himself, and he takes picture and he says that he found them, someone else found them and gave them to him. So you got a bit this kind of character. We'll see why he does that in detail soon. So what you need to know is that this character really invented an archive. Actually, the artwork that he was most renowned for is an archive. And it's an archive that is supposed to deal with the Lebanese wars. So it's an archive that is supposed to, where all of these people and photographers and historians are taking pictures and sending documents, and he preserves them in his archive. Okay. Now, before he made this big project, which is the Atlas group, he began with Al-Hadas kind of group, where if you read the statement of Al-Hadas, the mission statement of Al-Hadas is that a number of Lebanese photographers took on themselves the mission to document Beirut as much as they can in the year 77, because they felt that, you know, it's about to get destroyed, and they felt that they have to save whatever they can save by taking as many pictures as they can of everything that can exist in Beirut. So in the mission statement, they have to take pictures of plants, animal, any moving object, buildings, door, windows, anything that they can document. And they really ran the streets like taking pictures day and night to like fuel the archive, which is Al-Hadas archive. Now, there is one weird thing in the statement. Each time you take a picture, you have to give it 3 addresses. So if you take a picture here, you have to give it like, okay, I took it in AUB, and then you say, under the same picture, you say, I took it in Uzay, and I took it in, I don't know, in Faraya. Okay? You put 3 addresses, and you shouldn't say which address is the right one. So then you have pictures with 3 addresses for each picture. Now, why is he doing that? Which is a bit weird, no? So I'll show you some of these pictures. They're not. So this is one of the pictures. You see, it's shops. This is another picture. These are 2 pictures, and you see here you have numbers. So I have a picture with 3 addresses and a number. This is another picture. You see these. You recognize a bit these shops in Beirut. This is another one. You notice they're not very, very gorgeous shops. They're a bit, you know, like, and then he puts that. And then that, what do you have? You have this, you have Verdun. So, why do you need 3 addresses? Because Walid says, you know what, in Lebanon it's impossible to take a picture of a place, because whenever you take a picture of a place, actually you take a picture of another place. So if you take a picture of Verdun, which Verdun are you taking picture of? Is it the Verdun here or the Verdun in France or in Abidjan? Which Verdun are you taking? And he's showing here that he's aware of the colonial duplication. We are all doubles, by the way. It's maybe it's something nice. Duplications, meaning you have a Verdun here, which is actually a kind of vague copy of the Verdun there. And you have Place Étoile. Place Étoile was supposed to be an étoile, a nice étoile, but one of the arms was passing by the church, and the church told them, no, you can't pass by here. So it became an étoile with one leg less. Okay, so anyway, you have l'étoile here, and Walid Raad is saying, if you want to take l'étoile, what are you taking really in this picture? Actually, l'étoile itself is already a picture. And Verdun or, Rue Gouraud or Clemenceau, they're already pictures. So are you doing a picture of a picture or a picture of something else? And he gets lost. So he said, okay, we're gonna put many addresses for each picture. Okay? We're gonna put many addresses for each picture. because this shows how much it's impossible to take pictures here. Now, why it's impossible to take pictures here? For two reasons. The first reason is that of the colonial duplication. Beirut is Paris du Levant, hence it's already a picture, so you don't know what you are really taking into this picture. Or if you want to take a real picture, you have to take this as a duplication. So if pictures are about showing the real, if you want to take a real picture of Verdun, you have to take Verdun twice, or Verdun as a duplicated something. And not only that, you will have to show that this picture relates to what? To the colonial production. So this is why Al-Hadas, they say, we take pictures like Adget used to take pictures. Now, who is Adget? He's a French photographer of the colonial heydays who used to take vitrines, who used to take who used to take pictures like that. You see, this is a picture by Adget. And this is a picture by Walid Raad. See, he's taking the same kind of vitrine, he's taking the kind of, okay? But what you see is that here the vitrines are a bit not as cool as the other vitrine. They're empty and they're deliberated. And what Walid Raad is saying, he's saying that this is taken in 1926. He's saying this picture of Adget in 1926 actually is the cause of that picture that you saw by Walid Raad in 1977, because if today the shops are empty in Beirut in 1977, it's because the shops were full in France and Paris in 1926, because Adget himself used to take these pictures as a critique of colonialism, because the wealth of many European countries was made on the ground of exploiting, be it Africa, Middle East, or wherever. And Adget used to take these pictures, as Benjamin says, as scenes of crime. Like he used to take that, or I'll show you another one, as scenes of crime, because the wealth present there is coming from a crime. Okay? So all of these shops that were full in the 1920s in France, so all this money came from where? From direct exploitation of these other regions, which were supposed to be duplicates of France. Okay? I hope now you're getting the relation. So the empty shops now in 77, empty, deliberated shops, actually have the same cause as the full shops of Adget. Okay? And he doesn't stop here. The number that you see, because you have a number under the picture. If you look at the Walid Raad word, you have a number under the picture, you know. You see this number? Walid Raad says that this is the number of the picture in the archive of Al-Hadas. But if you Google this number, it takes you to the I forgot which museum, to a museum in the United States, where actually the number of the picture is this one. Okay? So the number of the picture of the shop in Walid Raad is actually a number taken by Walker Evans. It's a picture taken by Walker Evans. Walker Evans is a communist, in quote, or a leftist photographer who used to work in the States. He was known in 1920, around 1928 to be the photographer of the Great Depression. So now you have the Great Depression, the empty shops in Lebanon on the verge of the civil war, and the full shops, the filth shops of Paris, and you have a node. You have a node between what? Between three photographies. Walker Evans taking photographies of the tools of the workers, the shops, and this is how you make a node between these three situations: depression, colonialism, and Lebanese civil war. And what Walid Raad is trying to show you is that there is a relation between these three images and these three photographers, and they have the same cause, which is a form of capitalist, imperialist, colonialist structure, which end up generating what you see around you. And this is why you have to take a picture, give it three names, and reference it to another picture. So this becomes a self-aware way to take pictures. And when you take your pictures that way, you are conscious of the reality of what you're taking. You're not just taking pictures. Now you know that I'm taking this picture, but for this to be here, meaning Rue, Gouraud, or L'Étoile with the shops, because you know the shops you're taking, you have this French thing in the architecture, not in all of them, but in some of them you have this, in what you call today downtown is actually a French colonial architectural thing. So it's between the Beaux-Arts and between Orientalist motifs. So it's a kind of Beaux-Arts with decorations from Ottoman stuff. But whatever is the case, when you take that into a picture, you have to be aware that this comes from France, and that you have to be aware that you're taking something produced, etc., and you connect. Now, I hope you understand that. You see how he makes his picture. Now, I'll read you a quote, because colonialism is also present in the history of art. Now, what is colonialism? I hope by now it's clear. It's when you correlate an individuality or singularity to a meaning, and you put aside everything else. This is really what we can call Eurocentrism. Eurocentrism doesn't mean everyone comes from Europe, because if you take Marx, Deleuze, etc., Derrida, they're European, but they're not Eurocentric. So it's very different between being Eurocentric and European. Eurocentric means that your brain structure is a transparent assignation of meaning. You know everything in relation to the way you see things, which is singularity, universality, and you apply that on everything. Okay? So you can be Iranian and Eurocentric. You can be Saudi and Eurocentric. It doesn't matter. So the anti-Eurocentrism is when you start seeing that actually existence is much more complex, and you have political positions, relations, and the like. Now,
Eurocentric is like ethnocentrism.
it's a form of ethnocentrism. It's not an ethnocentrism. No, ethnicity would be like Arabism or stuff like that. Eurocentric is more of a mental structure. At least this is how I see it. It's more a mental structure that relates a lot to modernity, which means you have something and you have its meaning, which is accoladed to it, without any problem between the meaning and the thing. This is, if you want, Eurocentrism, and it's highly spread. Now, I will read you the quote by Alain Gilbert. Alain Gilbert, which is very well-intentioned, by the way, but if you're well-intentioned, it doesn't make you less Eurocentric. You can be very, very well-intentioned and the friend of the guy you're talking to, which is Walid Raad in this case. It doesn't, because it's a mental structure, you can't escape. You think like that since you are in school. It becomes a reflex. Like whatever you see, you say, oh yeah, this is that, this is that, this is that. And you miss the whole complexity of the political, existential thing. So Alain Gilbert says, in the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction, I think you know this text, it's a text by Benjamin. So in the work of art in the age of mechanical reproduction, Walter Benjamin writes that Adget photographed the streets of Paris like a crime scene. For years, Raad treated Beirut the same way. So Raad did like Adget. If histography and the accompanying question of photographic representation is one primary topic investigated by the Atlas Group, so if photography and dealing with history is what the Atlas Group does, then architecture is another. Among its many connotations, this preoccupation with documenting emptied architecture, this preoccupation in documenting emptied architecture, what you have seen, connotes a restless loss of home. And Alain Gilbert sees Raad's many images of closed store fronts. So for Alain Gilbert, what does the picture mean, the pictures of the closed, empty shops? So I repeat. Then among its many connotations, this preoccupation with documenting emptied architecture, in bracket, see Raad's many images of closed storefronts, connotes a restless loss of home. So what does it mean, these pictures for Gilbert? The loss of home. Clear? So now you have a photo which is an empty shop. What does it mean? Loss of home. You see now, do you see now? Huh?
War. No war.
It means war or loss of home or the difficulty of being here. But does it see now that actually he's making this photo not because he likes Adget as his mentor, because if you read the sentence, it seems that Walid Raad, he looks at Adget as if he's, his idealized photographer, and he wants to do like him. So he wants to be a copy of him. This is a doubling structure. it's like Paris. You have it here, it's a lot, especially among us scholars. Like, you become the Adorno of Beirut, the Deleuze of Beirut, you have the Hegel of Beirut. This is what you call duplications, okay? You become the this of that. So what he's saying here, Alaji, he's saying, well, you know what, Walid Raad, he's the Adget of Beirut, to make it simple. And he's the Adget of Beirut because, look, he's taking pictures like him. I hope you see what we call colonialism in the art history. When you do this, you are doing colonialism in art history, meaning you are imposing a very simplified mimetic relation between the artist in Lebanon and the artist in Europe. And you are saying that the artist in Lebanon takes picture and he knows their meaning just like that. I'm taking the picture of my lost home, and that's it. Compare this to what Walid himself was saying. Walid himself was saying that, one, you can't take a picture of an empty store here because it's another store. And two, the empty store here has the same cause as the filled store in Adget. And hence I'm taking these two pictures because I'm critically aware that the same cause is leading me to take these pictures and leading him to take these pictures. And you see there's no more relation of imitation between the original and the copy. Now we have the same problem, which opens, by the way, a real politics of photographers, if you can call it like that, because now they are really working together, and not anymore Adget is a living god and Raad, he's a pale copy. Because now they're tapping in the same source, in the same causes, and together they're working on these causes, be it Adget, Walid Raad, and Walker events. Interestingly enough, also Raad, expose his pictures where events expose his pictures. Okay, so I'll read you and we will conclude the sentence of Walid Raad so you can hear it. They, meaning these pictures that he took in Al-Hadath, they also point to Al-Hadath's critical attention to photograph. These pictures I make, they point towards the critical attentions to photographs, to photograph circulation in various venues, and to photographs meanings and values as commodities and as intelligence and aesthetic text. It is thus no accident, for example, that Al-Hadath images bear a formal resemblance to the photographs of Eugène Adget. So there's a formal resemblance to the photograph, and it's not an accident. Al-Hadath is not only cognizant of this, but is quick to point out that this resemblance is motivated by critical and historical reasons. So the formal resemblance is not motivated by formal considerations, but by critical and historical reasons. Adget's images of Paris were, after all, produced during France's colonial heyday in Lebanon. In this project, the images of one Paris, Beirut, as the Paris of the Levant, produce a critical reading of other photographs of another Paris, Adget's Paris, by reminding us of the colonial intervention that directly and indirectly shaped Beirut's emergence as a geographical, economic, and political center in the Levant. Okay, now you get the story, how he's able to condense all the story into this image. So it becomes here like a concentration point. And as we will see in the next sessions, Walid Raad, he's really good at creating nodes, like concentration points that synthesize a whole history, fantasies, imaginary of some historical problem or epoch. Okay? So I hope you watch these two movies on the weekend. If you didn't watch them yet, they are here. You can take them on a USB. I will send you two links. You have to be quick to watch them. There's a talk on the Ashkal Alwan site by Walid Raad. I'm telling you, you have to be quick to watch them because maybe this talk will disappear soon. So watch it before it disappears, because usually they're not available, these talks, because the work of Walid Raad is performance. And usually he likes, and I think in a way he's right to be worried about that, he likes to have a real performance and not people to watch his performances on videos. So he's very careful on limiting these things. So you have one available, I'll send you the two links, it's in the notes. So when you read the notes, you will see the two links. One on the Ashkal Alwan site, and another one on a talk he gave somewhere in the States, where the website there kept the talk. I don't know how, but it's there. Okay.